Fantasy Football Fix YouTube live stream. My name is FPL Nacho and this is the Game Week 15 live stream. Apologies for being a little bit late. It's been a while since I've had some technical difficulties, but today was the day. But we've got everything sorted now and I cannot wait to get into the thick of things on this Game Week 15 live stream because, importantly, we only have 2 game weeks until the World Cup. So for people like myself, where you're a rank you're not too happy with, we've got these dreams, these ambitions of getting these incredible green arrows over the next 2 game weeks. And of course, hope is what we need right now in FPL. And it is exactly what I'm clinging on to in terms of my FPL rank. But we will touch on that later on in this live stream. First and foremost, thank you so much for those that are tuning in. If you are listening right now and you want to get involved in the chat, jump in the comment section. It'd be awesome to see if we have the usuals in the chat. And of course, any new faces, drop a hello in the chat. It'd be awesome to mingle throughout this live stream. We're going to be looking to do this for just under an hour or so. So we're going to come up to around 6:30 UK time. Obviously, if you're watching this back, then that is irrelevant. But just want to cover off what we'll be discussing in this live stream because once again, we have a few set hot topics that I want to discuss. We've got some great slides that are going to be coming into the live stream. But importantly, any questions that you guys have throughout this live stream, get involved in the chat. I'll be answering them throughout the live stream. So we're not going to just do an allocated Q&A right at the end of the live stream because I'm conscious you guys have stuff to do in your day. I will answer them throughout the live stream. But of course, I will try and do hot topic, questions, hot topic, that sort of format. So what we're going to be discussing, first and foremost, going to be discussing my team going into Game Week 15. I've got 2 free transfers. I have Haaland, I've got Mitrovic, I've got Salah. It might relate to a few of you out there. So hopefully you can relate to my team and get some inspiration on the decisions I'm planning. Going to be looking at the 4 best Toney replacements. So that is worthwhile sticking around if you are a Toney owner. And of course, we're going to be looking at those players that are projected to score the most points going into Game Week 15. And of course, along the way, I'll update you on the most recent news in regards to Haaland. Update you on the most recent news in regards to who is the other one? Callum Wilson, a very popular transfer in going into Game Week 15. So if you are new around here, please do hit that subscribe button. And of course, if you enjoy the live stream, we always try and hit 50 likes on every live stream. And I know you guys always deliver. So thank you in advance for that. So let's get kicking off with some of the questions. And then we're going to go into our first section, which is going to be basically my team. So hope you guys doing well. Cheekster, as always in the chat, hope you are doing very well. Chris, hope you're doing well. Paul with an early question in the chat. Let's get this one answered first and foremost. Paul, I need to take a -8 minimum, Paul, due to injuries and suspensions. Should I free hit? Paul, no, I would not free hit to answer your question. Of course, I don't have the full understanding of what your team looks like. So, of course, it's very easy for me to come to a blank decision where I say, no, don't do it. But in terms of a -8, while I really am against taking points hits right now because we only have 2 game weeks to really capitalise and claw back those points deficit, the free hit is going to be a lot more profitable later on in the season when we get our blank game weeks, when we get our double game weeks. So I would hold off on the free hit. But of course, I'm kind of answering that on the basis that I don't really know your team. Rio asking, hi Nacho, will it be worth a -4 to replace Zaha by Trossard or Rashford? And I think the quick answer here is going to be no. Although Zaha, and it's worth noting, I am a Zaha owner, one of the most frustrating assets in the game. Bags of talent, scores when you don't want him to score and scores when you don't have him. It's a terrible recipe for disaster with Wilfried Zaha. But for a -4, I think over the next 2 game weeks, it's very difficult for players to claw back that kind of points hit. And we need to remember that Zaha and Crystal Palace still have favourable fixtures between now and the World Cup. So yes, I understand he probably is such a frustrating player for you. But in regards to a -4, I probably wouldn't be tempted to do that. And Mads is saying, good evening, so tired of Zaha. Right on cue there of what I mentioned there. 2-week punt for Trossard or Benrahma. Downgrade will free up funds to go TAA in Game Week 16 at home to Southampton. So, yeah, obviously, of course, I just went out of screen there. They're all illusion. So, basically, with Mads there, with your question in regards to being tired of Zaha, I'm going to assume you're doing this for a free hit, a free transfer, and hopefully that is the case there. But look, if you're a free transfer, I'm more than happy for you guys to sell Zaha. He is a frustrating asset, but just be aware that he is the talisman in that Crystal Palace team. on penalties, he can deliver in any game, it is worth noting. But if I had to go for one of the two, I would probably favour Trossard over Benrahma. Main reason being is Benrahma, while he's been ticking over, okay, nothing to scream and shout about. I know the Paqueta injury has meant that Benrahma's game time is probably a bit more consistent rather than if Paqueta was in the squad. So I would go for Trossard. He got guaranteed game time, hopefully deployed as a forward alongside Danny Welbeck if he returns, and decent fixtures to finish off. So Trossard would be the answer for me there. And FPL Bateman Marcus, hello Nacho, looking sharp. Thank you very much, Marcus. I do much appreciate it. So let's get cracking, guys, with my team update going into Game Week 15. I'm about 450,000th in the world, which again, I know a lot of content creators are out there around that sort of rank and kind of have the same conclusion as me, where I'm really happy with my decisions going along. I'm happy with my team. I just feel like there's been a few things which probably could have gone the other way, and I've seen myself being about 450k. Ever the optimist, I am so certain that I can still get myself a top 10k finish. Fingers crossed that can happen, and of course make sure you are sticking along the way throughout the season to see if I can stick to that. I should probably do some sort of, not a dare, but maybe like a motivation if I don't get it, that I can do it myself. We'll see. Definitely not shaving the head. So let's get cracking, guys, with my team update. And obviously, guys, let me know where you're tuning in from in the world. It'd be awesome to know where people are. Where we are right now is 5:40 UK time, and I'm having a coffee, which is a little bit controversial to some people out there. So let's get cracking with the team, guys. This is how my team is currently set up if I was to sleep in and miss the deadline. 2 free transfers in the bank and 0.3 million available to me. And I'm pretty happy with the starting 11, as we can see on the screen here. So just to touch on the Haaland situation. Pep Guardiola, as mysterious as he always is, hasn't given concrete evidence in regards to Erling Haaland, whether he's going to be available or not. We saw pictures drop yesterday in regards to Haaland being in training. Pep's confirmed that he was in training and he was going to have an afternoon training session as well and make a decision on him. So my thought process on Haaland is going to be this. He has 2 fantastic home games against both Fulham and Brentford to finish off before the World Cup. Few things. First and foremost, we know he is back in training. So if he doesn't start against Fulham, there is a strong possibility that he will feature off the bench. And I've always been in the thought process of 30 minutes of Erling Haaland is almost as good as 90 minutes of the majority of FPL assets out there. So the fact that he's been in training makes me think that holding Haaland is absolutely the right play. The second reason being is going to be because, of course, the home fixture against Brentford in Game Week 16, even if he isn't past fit for the Fulham game, you're absolutely going to want him for that Brentford at home game. We need to remember that this is a Haaland who is not only the best player in the league, but not going to the World Cup. So there is zero reason for Pep Guardiola to bench Erling Haaland. He is going to be absolutely raring to go, knowing that he has a month off while everyone else is playing for that glorious World Cup. So Haaland, I think, if he doesn't play against Fulham, he absolutely plays against Brentford. And I just think that's enough of a reason for us to start Erling Haaland in your team and pray that he does get at least 30 minutes. Because I honestly think 30 minutes against this Fulham team is absolutely enough for him to get some sort of haul. We've seen him get a hat-trick in like 20 minutes. So there is not beyond the realms of possibility that he picks up a double-digit haul in limited minutes. Now, in regards to captaincy, I think this is where the deliberation needs to be had. In my situation personally, looking at my team, other captaincy options are few and far between. Mo Salah, if I was confident that he was potentially going to get something against Spurs. Zaha? Absolutely not. Saka, Martinelli? No, even though I do think Arsenal will get a positive result against Chelsea. So it really comes down to Cancelo. Cancelo is the only other one that I could confidently put the captaincy on, knowing that he was rested in the Champions League fixture. But again, it comes back to, is 35 minutes of Erling Haaland potentially off the bench better than any other captaincy in my team? And I'd probably argue it is, to be honest with you. I really would argue that that is the case. Now, if you are sat there right now with Kevin De Bruyne in your team, then this becomes a completely different argument, because we are not only getting a player that is in banging form right now, top scorer midfielder, top for bonus. I believe he's top for midfielder. Maybe Almiron just surpassed him. He is a very, very viable captaincy option because we know we're getting guaranteed game time, playing in an advanced position, and potentially on penalties if Erling Haaland was to miss the game. So I think Kevin De Bruyne is a fantastic captaincy option alternative to Haaland if you start to have doubts in regards to Haaland's minutes. Now, the big question now is, are we going to get a team leak before the deadline? Just to remind you guys, in case you weren't aware, we don't have any midday kickoff on a Saturday, which is just ridiculous. So we're in a position right now where the 3 p.m. kickoffs on Saturday are the first round of games to be played, which means Man City being a 3 p.m. kickoff, potential for a team leak. Now, previously in Game Week 14, Man City were the first game to be played in Game Week 14. And we managed to get some team leaks over on Twitter. Now, a few accounts that you could follow. Team News and Ticks on Twitter, an account that has dropped the Man City team previously, one to follow. City Extra, a verified account as well, is worth following. They are the two that realistically, if we are going to get City news before the deadline, those are going to be kind of revealing it. So my advice is this, first and foremost. Wait for any sort of news to break potentially 15 minutes before the deadline if we get any Man City coverage. If we don't, then we have to come to our own decisions in our team. The one thing I need to say to you guys is this. Last week, the game crashed 3 or 4 minutes before the deadline because of the Man City news. Because everybody found out about the Man City news, thousands of people piled into the server at one time and it crashed it. So while I'm trying to tell you guys to hold off on your transfers, I don't want you guys to hold off 2 minutes before the deadline because we have seen that sort of situation where everything has crashed. My advice is this. Try and get it done 10 minutes before the deadline. Gives yourself the opportunity to get any team leaks that may happen. But also, we will get any... you will avoid any potential server damage, crashes that may potentially happen. So that is my thoughts on the Haaland situation, guys. Hopefully that has helped you clear a little bit up. Now, what is going on with my own team right now? As I said, I have 2 free transfers. I personally wanted Haaland to be out. I wanted him ruled out for the next 2 game weeks because I felt having 2 free transfers available to me gave me a bit of an advantage over the rest of the pack, where others had to deal with the Haaland situation, the Toney situation, and maybe some weaker squads. And I felt with 2 free transfers, I could maybe be a little bit different and be in a strong position knowing that I could sell Haaland and have another transfer available. Lo and behold, it doesn't look like that is going to happen. So, updated plans. There are 2 directions that I am planning on going on. First and foremost, using Mo Salah as a cash cow to sell to bring in Kevin De Bruyne as a premium alternative. As I've mentioned, the 2 fixtures coming up at home are absolutely fantastic against Fulham and Brentford. Man City at home are monsters. They're averaging around 4 a game. It's worth noting their expected goals isn't at that level, but they are still delivering in that part. So I need a third Man City option, and Kevin De Bruyne just feels like the obvious move to go for if I'm having to sacrifice Mo Salah. Now, those that tune in regularly know that I am one of the biggest Mo Salah fanboys out there, and I really don't want to sell him. However, we need to look at a 2-game week basis. Mo Salah away against Spurs and at home against Southampton versus Kevin De Bruyne with 2 home games against Fulham and Brentford. Do I foresee Mo Salah outscoring Kevin De Bruyne? Absolutely could happen. But I'm willing to bet against it and go for Kevin De Bruyne over Mo Salah. I just think the upside is a little bit bigger with Kevin De Bruyne. We know what we're getting with Man City. We are getting chances created and goals scored. Something that I can't really guarantee with this Liverpool team right now. They go and lose against Leeds and then beat one of the most informed teams in the world in Napoli. I just don't know which Liverpool team is going to come up. I know exactly what is going to turn up with Man City week in, week out. And because of that reason, I am very, very tempted to sell Mo Salah to Kevin De Bruyne. Now, if I was to do that, then my other transfer would be likely selling Mitrovic for Callum Wilson. Been a few chats about Callum Wilson being ill. What I've gathered from the press conference is he will be okay. He has had a little bit of a bug, but players play like that. It's just because they haven't been really raised in the social media that we haven't really discussed them. I think it always happens to players. It's just because Callum Wilson was so publicly announced on a podcast that we all started to panic about Callum Wilson. I think he'll be absolutely fine. So my current transfer plan is Mo Salah to Kevin De Bruyne, although I don't want to do it, and then Mitrovic to Callum Wilson. Now, another thought process that I have had is potentially avoiding Man City altogether, which is completely against what I mentioned, downgrading someone like Wilfried Zaha to a Rashford or a Trossard, and then looking to go all in on Man City in the final game week. That means I get to keep Mo Salah for game week 16, and I keep him for this week. But realistically, I think option one is the way that I'm going, guys. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. I just think having triple Man City is absolutely essential going into this game week. And before we go into the comment section, guys, to answer a few questions, I just want to say as well that selling Mitrovic, I really don't think is necessarily the best move, even though I am considering to do it myself. I think Mitrovic against Man City, if there's ever going to be someone who scores against them, it likely is going to be someone like Mitrovic. He scored against a lot of the big teams so far this season. Shot volume is brilliant, and Fulham themselves are really putting up a good account in most games that they are featuring in. And then at home to Man United to finish off the season again at Craven Cottage, I would not be surprised if Mitrovic scores in that game there. That is going to be a very, very tight affair against Man United. Man United really starting to perform really well, but I wouldn't necessarily say blow teams away with expressive football. I think that Fulham are going to be fully in that game there. And the week before the World Cup, I just think this is really going to be a favourable fixture for Fulham. Their players are going to want to go out with a bang in front of the home crowd, get one up on Man United. And Mitrovic, we've seen bully pretty much every centre-back that he's come up against. I know Martinez has been in fantastic form so far this season, but it would not surprise me if he was to get some joy airily from the Man United defence not this week in game week 16. So do not sell Mitrovic if you are in a position where you're like, I could do him for a luxury move. He's absolutely a perfect hold. I just think Callum Wilson probably just has that slight more ceiling, FPL ceiling that he could offer for managers. So that's my team thoughts, guys. Let me know in the chat what your plans are. Let me go in the comments. Let me answer some of the questions, and then we will dip into the next section, which is going to be Toney replacements / Mitrovic replacements if you were planning on it. So Lander's saying, is it time to get rid of Haaland? Hopefully that did answer that for you, buddy. If you didn't listen in, rewind it about 5 minutes. I've covered that off in regards to Haaland. Elron, is it worth doing Webster to Cresswell? Have 2 free transfers and I'm happy with the rest of my team. I don't mind it. West Ham do have really favourable fixtures until the World Cup. But again, if you have 2 free transfers, there's not much else you want to do with your team, then I don't mind it. I think Cresswell offers some sort of set-piece potential. West Ham defensively are one of the best defenses underlying stats-wise, so I like the move. The one thing I would say is Brighton are playing against a Wolves team that are one of the lowest scoring teams in the league, so don't be surprised if Brighton do keep a clean sheet, but if you're in a position where the rest of your team is more than happy, I don't mind the sideways move from Webster to Cresswell. Again, I believe you're going to need some funds available to make that move. So maybe just look at it and think to yourself, if I make that transfer, how does my team in game week 16 look? And did I need those additional funds that I was making to go to Cresswell to upgrade other areas of my team? Just maybe check out the team over the next 2 weeks. Don't be tunnel vision just on game week 15 in isolation. Most technique, hope you're doing well, buddy. Nick, thoughts on Wilson's quote? He'll be right. Yeah, a little bit of panic in that sentence there. Yeah, I do think he will be available personally. I don't think there's enough there for us to be worried about. Everyone Bateman, in tropical surroundings, Swindon and waiting for a harvester order. Wife's gone for a chicken burger and I've gone for a rack of ribs. Unbelievable shout there, rack of ribs. Honestly, up there with one of the top 5 meals, I'm calling it. And Swindon, not too far from me either. So maybe we'll get a catch up one day. That'll be awesome. Drew Sealer, even an actual highlight of my week, sitting in my shed in sunny Reading. Is that one of them like man cave sheds? If it is, I absolutely need to come round for a pint. Chris, Mount Zaha, Dyer out for who? St. Maximin or Rashford? I can't guarantee you the game time of St. Maximin. Murphy's been doing well. Obviously, Almiron's been on absolute fire. I don't think Eddie Howe needs to force St. Maximin back into the team. Therefore, Rashford would be the answer there. I've got 2 free transfers by Fade. I've got 2 free transfers, 2.4 million in the bank. I'm thinking of replacing Andreas to Rashford or Trossard. and Mitrovic to Skamaka. Okay, so this is a really difficult one, Rashford or Trossard. I think both are fantastic options. Looking at, and it's worth noting, I will just quickly cover this off for you guys now. Looking at the projected points over the next 2 game weeks for Trossard and Rashford. Trossard is predicted to score 7.8 points, whereas Trossard 7.8, Rashford 8.5. So based on that, if you were just looking at the Fantasy Football Fix algorithm points, Rashford would be the transfer for you. And I'm not against that. I think Rashford has been one of the form players of late. Mark is saying, beware of Bouna. Absolutely. Guys, Bouna is definitely going to be out for the Pride to get some people on Saturday for absolute sure. Gundogan captain, I don't mind it. I just can't guarantee that game time for Gundogan. That's the only thing I would be worried about. Is my advice. So Moon said, I have funds for De Bruyne, but my concern now is that Pep benches him and starts something like Silva, Gundogan, Rodri. Yeah, so this is absolutely something that is foreseeable and could happen. Again, my advice, if you are really worried about the Man City lineup, is going to be obviously the waiting before the deadline, following the accounts that I mentioned, City Extra, which is a verified account, Team News and Ticks, another advice account on Twitter. If there are going to be a team leak before the deadline, it will be from one of those accounts. So if you want to hold off, then maybe do that before you make a Man City move. My thing would be is kind of expect anything to happen with the Man City options. So I think if you have that logic that you don't want to go to Kevin De Bruyne because you're worried about his game time, I think you don't buy any Man City option if that is your worry. I think when we do buy Man City options, we all need to have the kind of common thought process that my player could get benched at any time. We've seen that with Phil Foden. Who would have thought basically played every minute up until that point, gets benched back to back? I just don't think anyone foresaw that. So I think go for Kevin De Bruyne, but if you're worried, wait until the deadline to potentially get some sort of team leaks. Right, I'm conscious I've been rambling about my team for about 20 minutes now, 15 minutes. Let's go on to a section which I absolutely think will be beneficial to a lot of people, and that's going to be Toney replacements. And one thing, guys, I've seen we're on 14 likes for the live stream. As I said, if we can get that to 50 likes, that would be massively, massively appreciated. It will show that this live stream is actually offering a bit of value. Of course, if I'm chatting a little rubbish and it's not beneficial, don't have to like it. Don't worry about that. But it just shows me that there is some value to this live stream. But again, absolutely no hard feelings if that isn't the case. Right, let's dip into some Toney / Mitrovic / other replacements in the front line. Okay, guys, so here we have Game Week 15 forward comparisons here. So we are looking at 4 options here: Callum Wilson, Calvert-Lewin, Skamaka, and Gabriel Jesus. Now, quick caveat here on Gabriel Jesus. A lot of people haven't really been discussing Gabriel Jesus, mainly because he is on 4 yellow cards. And a lot of people haven't been discussing him because I think they think that he's out of their price bracket, which of course it is all dependent on your team. But my thought is, if a lot of people are considering Calvert-Lewin, Jesus is only 0.1 million more than Calvert-Lewin. So I was thinking to myself, if you're 0.1 million short, then absolutely fine. You can only afford Calvert-Lewin. But I've seen a lot of teams out there with money in the bank if they do go Calvert-Lewin and haven't even uttered Gabriel Jesus' name. Now, again, caveat, if Jesus gets yellow carded in Game Week 15, he will miss Game Week 16. So you are buying into a player that potentially is a risk for your team. So I just want to make sure that is absolutely clear, because that kind of risk isn't going to be for everybody. But when we do look at his underlying stats, and you can see them on the screen here, 6.08 expected FPL points per 90 so far this season. Again, the top 3 here are per 90 minutes so far the campaign. He is on par with Callum Wilson, but again, the one thing I want to say is Gabriel Jesus has played more minutes than Callum Wilson. So that's a larger sample size, which means that we probably are seeing a bit more consistent returns from Gabriel Jesus than Callum Wilson. So it is worth noting that. Expected goals, 0.66. Again, a player that has been kind of criticised a lot for his finishing, which I think is kind of understandable. But his expected goals is the thing that I particularly want to take focus on. And him getting 0.66 XG per 90 in this Arsenal team is really, really promising reading. And again, the Arsenal team are about second best for expected goals as a team so far this season. And again, when we are buying forwards, we want to really try and pile in on the teams that are creating those chances for their forwards. And Gabriel Jesus is absolutely that player in that team. And again, something that doesn't get discussed enough about is his overall game for Gabriel Jesus in regards to FPL. Expected assists 0.26. Nobody else comes close to this per 90. Now, your eyes are probably drawing you to the Callum Wilson section because, of course, everybody's piling on Callum Wilson, the most transferred in player of all forwards. And I absolutely understand that. And somebody that I likely am going to be transferring in myself. But one thing I will say is, with Callum Wilson, you're very much getting a goal scorer rather than a well-rounded FPL option. And you can see that in the underlying stats here. 0.78 expected goals per 90 is absolutely ridiculous. Second best of all forwards. Of course, Erling Haaland is number one in that department. I didn't have to tell you that. But his expected assist is 0.12. And that shouldn't come to a surprise of a lot of people. We know with this Newcastle team, it is very much funneled down for Callum Wilson to basically just be on the end of balls in the box and counter-attacks, etc. So there's no surprise there. Callum Wilson isn't historically a player that is going to drop in and create for his teammates. But I'm absolutely happy with that. I'm looking to buy a forward that is going to score goals, and both Gabriel Jesus and Callum Wilson fall in that bracket. So I don't think either of them... you shouldn't be put off by Callum Wilson because of his expected assists, for example. Now, the fixtures... I'm just comparing Wilson and Jesus right now because you probably gather from my tone of voice, these are the best two options for you to consider as a Toney replacement or even a Mitrovic replacement. Southampton away, yes, I would argue, is a better fixture than Chelsea away for Arsenal in game week 15. But as a Chelsea fan, I really don't think a lot of people should be that concerned about the Chelsea defence. Although we have kept a few clean sheets, we saw against Brighton the problems we still have in the team. And also when you delve into the underlying stats of Chelsea against the Premier League teams, under Potter, although he is a work in progress and we have kept clean sheets, the underlying stats suggest that we've been very lucky in a lot of them. And I do think that may continue that trend against Arsenal, who will look to blow us out the water in the opening 15 minutes. If we can withstand the first 15-20 minutes, we're in the game. But I am a little bit worried that we could get completely blown out the water in the first 15-20. The game runs away from us. So Arsenal are the best in the business at that. And I do think Gabriel Jesus is going to be the heart of everything good that they do. So you can see that in the projected points. Game week 15, projected to score the most points of all four options at 5. Callum Wilson at 4.3. And between now and the World Cup, projected to score... apologies, I think that's... Yeah, okay, so I think that's correct. Game week 16 is predicted to score 5.5 points, is worth noting. So basically, looking at that, guys, it is a case of Gabriel Jesus is projected to score the most points of all forwards in this comparison between now and the World Cup. Sorry, I just got my kind of stats mixed up there. But look, if I was to choose a replacement right now for Toney, even though I have hyped up Gabriel Jesus, I do think Callum Wilson is the logical move for managers, mainly because Gabriel Jesus is on one yellow card. And if he was, apologies, if he was to get one more yellow card, he'll be suspended. And if that situation was to arise, do you have the flexibility in your team to be able to sell him in game week 16 for another forward? So because of that reason, even though it pains me to say it, because I do think Gabriel Jesus is the move for you to make, Callum Wilson is going to be my answer to the question of Toney replacements. Now, I haven't really touched on DCL and Scamacca. I don't think Scamacca is someone that I really am considering right now. I think the fixtures are good for him. The projected points are okay. He's projected to score 3.3 points in 15, 3.5 points in game week 16. Worth noting, considerably more than someone like Calvert-Lewin. I can't get personally too excited about Calvert-Lewin as we speak. Everton, from an expected goals perspective, as a team, aren't the best. Yes, he could be a fantastic punt. Yes, he could bag a brace in both games, but I feel like it's a bit too punty for me to invest 7.9 million when you got someone like Callum Wilson at 0.4 million cheaper. I just think it's criminal to go for Calvert-Lewin over Wilson. And again, if Calvert-Lewin does pop off, then put your hands up and accept that that has happened. But look, For me, I do think that Wilson is the option. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. I've rambled on a little bit there. Let's get into some of the questions, and hopefully that's kind of rounded it off. For me, the way I round it off is Jesus #1, but because of the yellow card, if you are worried about that, we're going to flip Wilson as #1, Calvert-Lewin Scamacca #2, Calvert-Lewin #3. We need to remember the cost of these players. It is worth noting. Right, guys, let's see if we've got any more questions in the comments. Yes, I do think Wilson will play. It's worth noting. Should I throw out... Wow. Oh, no, sorry. There's a couple here first. FPL Zaha. Will Bamford start? I think there's enough of a risk about him to not even consider him as an FPL option right now. I think that is probably the answer I would give to that one. I can't say whether he will or won't start, but I think there's enough uncertainty to make him not an FPL option. Willian, thoughts? Could be a good punt, but realistically, it's not the time to bring him in right now against Man City. Should I throw out Mitrovic and bring in someone else? Look, I think you're in a position right now. I think it's a luxury transfer, and the only reason being because Fulham are performing well so far this season. I think game week 16 is a good fixture for them at home against Man United. Yes, controversial opinion, but I do think there is potential there for them. So, look, I think there are other priorities, getting yourself triple Man City first and foremost. But yes, if you have 2 free transfers and you're in a luxury position where you could maybe sell Mitrovic to someone like Callum Wilson, then I can understand the move, because that's something that I am considering right now myself. But no, I don't think it's necessarily we need to sell Mitrovic because he's got terrible fixtures. I don't think it is necessarily the best move. Salah to KDB and Mitrovic and Wilson for a -4. Do I like it for a -4? I'm not huge on it for a -4. I think to do a -4, I would have to then captain KDB to justify the points hit there. Great point about Joel Linton being suspended. I didn't note that. So yes, that could come into play in regards to St. Maximin playing. That's something to consider. But again, I don't know exactly whether that will be the case or not. Did you guys make a World Cup team draft? No, we haven't done that yet, but we will possibly do a bit of content around that. We'll see later down the line. Can you pronounce Haaland right? The A is pronounced like the A in awesome. Okay, so it's Haaland. Apologies for that, Nikolai. I appreciate it. Apologies if I pronounced your name wrong as well. I don't mean it. Foden to KDB with Kane to Wilson, thoughts? No, I would not do Foden to KDB personally. If I don't own either of them, then I would go to KDB. Would I do Foden to KDB? No, I don't think I would. It's a lot of money to invest in your team. And then Kane to Wilson, no. I just think you stick with what you've got. Of course, if we get a team leak that Foden is benched or not in the squad, then we could potentially consider that move. But no, I would not be doing that myself personally. Cheekster, I made an early transfer last Sunday, replacing Toney with Wilson. Avoided a price drop and a price rise. Yeah, okay, so I think this is a logical move here. My advice is always this to FPL managers. Do not make early transfers because there is so much that can happen between the time you make the transfer and the deadline. We have things like Champions League, Europa League, training in general, team leaks, etc. However, in Cheekster's case, if you know that your player is banned, like Toney, and you know that you are not going to play him between now and the World Cup, and price rises mean that you'll be blocked out from your #1 transfer, then these are exceptions where I absolutely think the transfer can be done earlier before things like Champions League and Europa League, like a Monday, for example, or a Sunday. Otherwise, I think holding off and maybe just like letting the prices rise and fall is the best strategy. But in this case, I absolutely don't mind it. I'm going to say, what about Foden? Again, hopefully we'll get some news in regards to Foden before the deadline. Guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop on the predicted points going into game week 15, so we have them on screen. Again, I usually leave this slide on just so we can kind of just read it off. It's all there for you guys to kind of digest and understand who are the best players to own this game week. Again, just to round up the forward situation, personally, I think Gabriel Jesus is the best Toney Mitrovic replacement, but of course, him being on 4 yellow cards is something that you need to consider. If that is a high-risk move that you're worried about, then the answer is going to be Callum Wilson for your transfers. Yes, Calvert-Lewin and Scamacca could go off in the next 2 fixtures, absolutely. But
At 0.4 million, I just can't get excited about Calvert-Lewin when I can get Callum Wilson at a cheaper price. And Scamacca, Antonio, him and Scamacca have been rotating minutes. I want somebody that I know is going to guarantee game time and on penalties, and I know we are getting that with someone like Callum Wilson. So based on that, I think Callum Wilson is the best replacement there if you don't want to roll with the 4 yellow cards of Gabriel Jesus. Right, let's get into the predicted points. So here we have them on screen for you guys. We're going to come back into the comment section in a minute. And again, guys, if we can hit 50 likes, that would be massively appreciated. You guys always do the business, and I know you will do it this time. We're at 34 right now. If you can get us to 50, that will be, you know, absolutely spiffing, as they say. Right, goalkeepers on screen for you there. Again, somebody asked earlier on about Brighton defenders, and you can see here Sanchez is predicted to score the most points of all goalkeepers. Remember, Wolves offensively are so blunt. Yes, things might change, but Diego Costa's red card means they've just got another attacking option that is absent in their team. So I do think Brighton defensively are good for this game week, and Sanchez in particular. I'll leave the goalkeepers on screen again. Goalkeepers, not the most exciting thing. With 2 game weeks to go, we want to be making our free transfers attacking moves like the midfielders and the forwards, because that is where the real high FPL ceiling is going to be for our returns there. But again, goalkeepers union, unite in the chat if that is the case. Defenders, Cancelo, absolutely clear above and beyond all other options. Being rested in the Champions League means that we have got a fully rested Cancelo with 2 home games to finish off the season before the World Cup. Unbelievable opportunity with Cancelo. And yes, a potential differential captain if you want to go down that route. Trippier, Mr. Consistent, bonus point magnet. Do not be surprised if he picks up a double-digit haul between now and the World Cup. It is just waiting to happen. Diaz, Dunk and Stones to finish off the defenders. Midfielders, this is where it gets interesting and why I do think Kevin De Bruyne is a fantastic differential captain if you are worried about the Haaland game time. If that is the case, you can see on the projected points, both are looking to post similar numbers. And if we don't get any confirmation of a Haaland start and you are worried, go for Kevin De Bruyne captaincy. Remember, an additional point for a goal, an additional point for a clean sheet. He is absolutely a fantastic option if you want to go down that route. Mo Salah, bit low on the stats. Again, Spurs away, tricky fixture. Son being absent is going to hinder Spurs, it is worth noting. But from a defensive perspective, I still think Spurs are going to do okay in this game. But again, we don't know what Liverpool is going to turn up in this fixture. Moving on to the forwards, absolutely no surprise that Haaland is top of the tree here. And I would probably say that our algorithm has accounted for some, expected minutes here being a little bit lower than usual. I think if we were to bump that up to expected minutes of 80, then we are going to see those projected points go above and beyond Kevin De Bruyne's. Gabriel Jesus, again, 5 projected points, looking really solid for game week 15, and why I do think he is a brilliant option. And Wilson at 4.3. I'm going to leave them on the screen for you guys there so you can check them out. I'm going to come back to the comment section and answer anything that you have. But again, guys, drop anything you have in the comment section. I'll try and answer them between now and the next 20 minutes. It is worth noting. Okay. Who should I bring in for Chilwell? Well, I think this is going to be a case of what kind of funds do you have available to you. So just to refresh my memory really right now in regards to the Chilwell price bracket, because I don't know his price off the top of my head. Chilwell is currently priced at 5.9 million. So if you have no money in the bank and you have 6 million available, well, 5.9 million available. Between now and the World Cup, someone like Dunk is actually appearing to be a really good option because of the fixtures that he has against a Wolves team that struggle to score. My question to you would be is if you've got Trippier, yes, he has Chelsea at home in the last game, but I still think that is a viable fixture for him to pick up at least an attacking return. Diaz at Man City at 5.9 is an alternative if you don't want to go for the double Man City attack. But again, with Stones, Akanji, Laporte, Ake, I can't sit here and guarantee you that Diaz plays both games. So because of that, I don't think you can go down that route. So I think Chilwell, a great opportunity for you maybe to free up some funds in the bank. Go down to somebody like a Dunk, maybe even a Webster or a Zuma. Get yourself some West Ham coverage and then invest the funds elsewhere in your team. As you can tell, I'm a little bit bunged up. Modric. Is that the real Modric? Should I release Kane? If yes, whom to buy? Can't get Wilson already on a triple up. Okay, so if you're looking to sell Harry Kane, my question to you is, are you desperate to sell him? I think there is absolutely a possibility that he scores against this Liverpool defence that are really struggling to keep clean sheets. And secondly, a home fixture against Leeds in the last game week before the World Cup, I think is enough of a reason for you to keep Harry Kane. If you sell Harry Kane and you can't get to someone like Wilson, who are you really going to? Gabriel Jesus, but then if he gets yellow carded, you're then suspended for game week 16. Then we're looking at the likes of Calvert-Lewin, we're looking at Skamaka. I can't really get excited by that. The only way I would do Kane down to someone else is if you have 2 free transfers for you then to upgrade a midfielder to a Man City midfielder. Otherwise, I would absolutely just stick with Harry Kane. He's one of the most informed players in the game right now and a brilliant differential this week. FPL Zaha, couldn't find a better replacement of Toney. Can't buy Wilson as I'm 0.1 million short. If that is the case and you can't get to Wilson, then potentially the likes of Skamaka may be on the agenda then if you can't get there. Looking to replace Eze or Mitrovic, money not a problem. Already have triple City and triple Arsenal. Any suggestion? Well, I think with that kind of question now, I think the question now becomes, are either of them desperate sells for you? Or does rolling the free transfer into game week 16 with 2 free transfers available to you make your team stronger? I think that's the question you need to ask yourself right now, because I don't necessarily view you using your 1 free transfer to get rid of Mitrovic to someone like a Skamaka, if you can get there, really the best thing. You're saying money's not a problem, so yes, you could do Eze to Rashford or Mitrovic to someone like Wilson, but is it beneficial to a team, or could you roll your free transfer? That's the question you need to ask yourself. Should I sell Dean Henderson or Ward, and for who? No, absolutely not. I think if you are in a position right now where you have Dean Henderson and Ward, you absolutely just stick with your goalkeepers. Now, if it's a debate between who do you start, Dean Henderson or Ward, for this game week in isolation for game week 15, based on our projected points, Henderson is projected to score 4.1 and Ward is projected to score 3.5. So Henderson would be the choice of the goalkeeper playing. I would not be making a goalkeeper transfer right now. I don't think it's worthwhile. Good morning, Nacho. Hope you're doing well, Alejandro. Greetings from Colombia. Awesome to hear. Do I keep Perisic? Do I sell Pope to free up a spot for Wilson? Got 2 free transfers. I'm not huge on selling a goalkeeper at this point in time. Do I keep Perisic? I think that's a big question right now, and I couldn't sit here and tell you how many minutes he's going to play between now and the game week. Would I sell Pope to free up the funds for Wilson? Probably not. I don't think that transfer is desperate enough for you to sell Pope and use one of your free transfers for that move. I do view Perisic more of a transfer view waiting to happen. So my question to you is this. Could you do Perisic down to a Brighton defender, for example, for you then to free up funds to invest another spot in your team? That is going to be the big question. Otherwise, have you got a Man City defender? If you don't and you have the funds, Perisic, someone like a Cancelo, is absolutely a priority this week. Gene, I'm thinking of putting KDB as my captain because I'm afraid that Haaland will be on the bench and come on for a few minutes. Probably get some rhythm before Chelsea. Well, they've got Brentford. Would you recommend KDB captain? Yeah, so this is my advice to you guys here right now. Try and hold off until the deadline. And I don't mean until the deadline. I mean, wait about 15 minutes for the deadline. Follow accounts such as City Extra and Team News and Ticks on Twitter. If we are to get a Man City leak, it will be from one of these sorts of accounts on Twitter. Then, if we get an update that Haaland is playing, you put the captaincy on Haaland. I just don't think you can avoid it with his ownership right now. If we get no update on Man City, then I think captaincy on Kevin De Bruyne in your position is the correct call. I think we know we're getting guaranteed game time with someone like Kevin De Bruyne, and he's in fantastic form so far this season. If we're in a position where Haaland's benched, KDB starting, you put the captaincy on KDB. Hopefully that makes sense to you there. Steve, made my usual mistake of doing transfers a bit too early, and I still have Foden and I bought Wilson. Fail. Tempted to captain Trippier. He's my vice captain right now. I don't think you made a fail at all there. I think Foden will start this week, but again, try and monitor any potential team leaks. And Wilson, I don't think is a fail at all. I think a lot of people are going into him. So, Steve, don't put yourself down, buddy. I think they are good moves. Tempted Captain Trippier. I think that's an okay move. My question to you is, if you have Haaland, I think you put it on Haaland and hope to hear some news between now and then. Jesus to Kane. Alex is saying, no, I would absolutely keep Gabriel Jesus. I think he's a brilliant option this game week. And who would you captain if you had a free hit? You probably mentioned this earlier. I would captain Haaland still if I had a free hit and I was going for one. But I would go on Kevin De Bruyne if you were worried about the minutes for Haaland. What should I do with Wilson? Absolutely keep Wilson. I think he will start. Or Jesus to Ronaldo? No, I would not do that move, Alex. Wilson is 75%. Will he play? I think he will play, yes. He has been a little bit ill, but again, not enough for a reason for us to look to potentially sell him. Absolutely not. Atkins saying, if Foden is confirmed as a sub, can I do Salah to KDB and Foden to Bowen or Trossard and Toney to Wilson for a -4? I'm not huge on that. Again, it's all about ifs and buts. But if Foden is benched, I don't like the -4 move that you're making. I'd almost be tempted just to do Foden to someone like a Bowen if you want to really go down that route, if you want to invest. But look, I personally think that Foden will start. But again, try and monitor the press conferences between now, any team leaks between now and then. FPL Zaha, what about Awoyi? I can't remember how to pronounce his name. I was so bad at pronunciations. Obviously, the Nottingham Forest forward, I really like him as an ultimate differential. But that's kind of it, really. I still think there are plenty of options better than him. And those are kind of touched on in the Toney replacement section. Cheekstar, I have one free transfer left. Midfielder Martinelli, Salah, Foden, Andreas, and Zaha, 0.7 million in the bank, tripled up on Man City. So can't do Salah to KDB in one move. Thinking of Almiron or Trossard. Well, I think the big question is, what's your confidence in Wilfried Zaha? If you are just absolutely done with Wilfried Zaha, then I think Zaha to Trossard is probably the move that I would recommend you going for. I think he's probably the upside. I wouldn't sell any other than midfielders. I think Andreas Pereira is more than happily just going to sit in your team. So yes, I think making that move of Zaha to Trossard as your move would be a fine move there. Tor saying, I know goalkeepers are not a priority at the moment. I have Fabianski, though, who apparently has a knee injury. Would you say screw it, hope he starts, and use my transfer on an attacking player? That's a really good point there. And I didn't actually know the status of Fabianski. So, unfortunately, I'm sitting here right now not in the know about it. So, it is worth mentioning that. Okay, so that situation is a little bit unique because, of course, if we get 0 minutes from our goalkeeper, then that can be a little bit of an issue. My thought process is this. I don't know exactly what the situation is on Fabianski. If we know that he's completely out, then I think probably selling him would be a good use of your transfer just to get yourself a goalkeeper, because even though goalkeepers don't necessarily haul, they still accumulate points for your team, and not having one is going to be a problem for you. The big thing is this. I think you go to someone like Sanchez. I think that's an easy move for you to go for. So I think that's absolutely perfectly fine. Otherwise, I think Pickford at Everton is another fantastic pick for your team. So yes, unfortunately, I think a goalkeeper transfer is necessary if we get an understanding of what Fabianski's duration is going to be. If he's out before the World Cup, I would sell it and bring in a goalkeeper. It's not the best, almost glamorous move though. Alex, how is Jesus predicted second highest points away to Chelsea and 12 p.m. kickoff? Looks like a 0-0 written all of it. Yeah, Alex, it's so true. It could be the case, but Jesus has posted really solid underlying numbers. And although he might not be converting his chances, he's still getting his chances created for him and looking like a really good pick. Mark, Salah's KDB, one move that I am considering right now. But again, it's going to be dependent on your team. Do you say, no, thank you, man. I meant Chelsea because of the Carabao. Oh, yeah, I completely forgot about that. That's a good point. Cheeks that also have a decent record against Chelsea. Yeah, absolutely that. I'm a Chelsea fan and I remember a lot of occasions where we've been getting absolutely destroyed by Arsenal. William saying, what about Damari Gray? He has Everton at home and Bournemouth away. Buying him for Zaha allows me to do Saka to KDB for the 3 million. Not huge on it. I don't think we can sit here and guarantee Damari Gray's game time, first and foremost. And secondly, Saka to KDB, although that does seem like a really good move, I like Saka for this game week. I don't know about others, but I think Chelsea defensively are really struggling. No Fofana, no Reece James, no Chilwell, no Kepa between the sticks. I think there's going to be chances for Arsenal in this game, and I think selling Saka just doesn't feel right this game week. Is DCL worth buying? Rewind this about 20 minutes. I covered DCL, Skamaka, all these sorts of forwards. That's worth watching, but I personally think it's a bit of a punt because he's 7.9 million and you can get Callum Wilson at 0.4 million less. Zaha to Bowen, absolutely a luxury move, but I think that one will pay off if it's a free transfer. Any 6 million or under midfielders worth looking at? I'm thinking of doing Lucas Moura as a differential. He'll probably play with all their injuries to forwards. Oh. Yes, it is a possibility for you to consider, but look, if you're looking under 6 million, I'm just going to put the projected points up for myself here in terms of the midfield department. The answer is Almiron. I don't think you can bring in Lucas Moura when someone like Almiron is just screaming for you to bring him in. So my answer there is going to be Almiron. Nick, best budget defender. I think you are looking at Brighton then if that is the case. Or get yourself someone like Kurt Zuma in that West Ham defence. Underlying stats are very good defensively, so I don't mind that at all. Hey Nacho, greetings from Toronto. Awesome to hear. I'm top of all my mini leagues and on 104.5 million budget. Already on 3 and 3 for City and Arsenal. Should I stick with Saka? Apologies, stick with Salah and Mateta, or for Bossard, which is Trossard, and Mitrovic/Wilson? Look, I think it is pretty clear that Trossard and Wilson is better than Salah and Mateta for the coming game week. So yes, I do like that move if you are going down it. I think that is an optimal transfer, only if you have 2 free transfers available to you. Good luck on the move there, Colin, I believe it is at the end there, for doing Mitrovic to DCL. John Bowles, I have Kane, Haaland, Solanke, Martinelli, Saka, Almiron, Foden, White, Cancelo, Trippier, Trent. Whew, that's a long one. 2 free transfers. Should I stick or twist? Opinions. Okay, so look, if I was sat there with that team right now, I honestly don't think you have anything screaming out for an immediate transfer. Kane, Haaland, Solanke, all brilliant picks. Martinelli, Saka, Almiron, Foden, nothing really problematic there. White, Cancelo, dude, you're in a great spot. My question to you would be, who's your goalie? Maybe a goalie transfer, because the rest of your team looks fantastic, and I wouldn't be looking to move any of those out as we speak. Thoughts on Wilson and Foden to Darwin and Trossard? Wilson? No, I would not be selling Wilson and Foden personally, Marcus. I don't think that's a move that I think is optimal. I was doing some research of my own, and I saw that Zaha never scored or assisted in any games against West Ham away. Oh, well, as a Zaha owner, that has just made me depressed. Look, I think Zaha being sold for a free transfer, if you have no other issues, is absolutely a perfectly fine move. George, have Wilson, Haaland and Toney flagged or out? Would you play both Haaland and Wilson when they are both flagged? Absolutely, George. I would start Haaland and Wilson in a heartbeat, and I would look to prioritise Toney out for your team, because if you don't sell him this week, and you can sell him in game week 16 if you wanted to, they finish off the season away against Man City, which is basically just a 0-pointer, isn't it? Or a 2-pointer. Alex, starting 11 million. Starting right now is Ward, Trippier, Cancelo, Dallo, Rashford, Zaha, Martinelli, Foden, Haaland, Jesus, Darwin. 1 free transfer, 3.7 million in the bank. Any ideas? Team's looking great. Darwin, of course, is a little bit of like a, don't really know what we're getting from him. But then you're going to want him for that Southampton game at home. So I wouldn't be looking to sell Darwin. I think the move right now that you need to consider is you can't get another Man City option. So that is kind of the situation you're in. Do you potentially sell Zaha and get yourself somebody like a Bowen or a... you've got Rashford. So maybe a Bowen, for example. If not, I think royal free transfer, 2 free transfers available to you in the final game week. It means that you could go, for example, Jesus, if you want to sell him, if he gets a yellow card, get yourself up to Harry Kane and get that fantastic home fixture against Leeds. So yeah, I'd probably roll in your case. I think you've got a really solid team for this week. Zaha to Bowen, absolutely think that is fine. Again, guys, if you can drop a like on the stream, that would be massively appreciated, as always. I could just see at the very end there, Cheekster is saying, good luck with Game Week 15. Thank you very much. Just in case you are dipping off cheeks, so thank you very much for tuning in once again. Kepa is injured. Yes, it sounds like he is out until the World Cup. So that is a transfer priority if you own him right now, if you don't have a replacement on the bench. Darwin or Kane? Look, I absolutely love Darwin in terms of Game Week 16, but Darwin or Kane against Leeds, I think Kane if you've got the money available. Ribs are immense, by the way. I am so jealous of my ribs right now. I've got absolutely nothing sat in front of me, so I would absolutely love to be tucking into a delicious ribs right now. Goalkeeper Pope and Ward. John, you're saying goalkeepers Pope and Ward. I would be looking to start. Are those two Pope? Pope still, Newcastle defensively are fantastic. Please rank the following players. Rashford, Maddison, Bowen, Trossard. Well, what I can do is use our algorithm here just to show you, to kind of highlight which player is coming up best over the next 2 game weeks. So just to give you a bit of an idea, because it is worthwhile, obviously using the Fantasy Football Fix algorithm. And again, guys, I don't say it enough, but in the bio, please do check out the Fantasy Football Fix official website. We have such a brilliant website which offers so much to managers. It's the reason why I finished 270th in the world last season, because of the tools available. I only really touch on them so little in these live streams, something that I really think you guys will benefit from. So make sure you do check all that out in the bio. And even if you haven't already, make sure you download the free app, because when price changes are happening so frequently, you need to stay in the know. And our free app will give you the opportunity to track and monitor your squad's price changes and all players across the game. So I really do highly recommend that. And of course, it is free to download, so you need to check that out. Right. Rashford projected to score 8.5 points. Maddison, 8.6. So Maddison looking good. Bowen, 9.5. And Trossard to finish off 7.8. So based on our projected points, Bowen number 1, Maddison number 2, Rashford number 3, Trossard number 4 in that case. Maxence is saying, so Haaland captain or not? Right now, I'm going to be captaining Haaland. As I mentioned, please do monitor Twitter before the deadline. There are a lot of team leaks out there. If we do get information that there has been a Man City team leak, that might change the impact on Haaland. But because he's been training, I personally will be captaining him. Magnus, should I captain De Bruyne or Haaland? I still would go for Haaland, but if you have uncertainty about a Haaland start, then De Bruyne is your answer. William, what about Gordon for Eze as a 2-week punt to allow me to have Salah, KDB and Haaland? Thanks, mate. Chelsea fan too. Quality work, William. Yes, I think Gordon for... Look, I think Gordon is a good differential if you want to go down that route. I think he will get game time. It just depends who you're selling, that is all. But I like the move because you are getting good fixtures. And as you said, it gives you the chance to have Salah, KDB and Haaland. So I am all for that. You have to keep Anthony for the pirouettes. Love that. How am I doing so far? I am 450k in the world, which, again, doesn't sound the best, but I'm more than happy with that rank right now. I think I can back myself for the second half of the season to finish strong. And I can say, good luck, Nacho. Rest up, bruv. And you, buddy. Right, guys, I said that we were going to wrap this up at 6:30 UK time, and I'm going to absolutely stick to that. Thank you so much for tuning in once again. It's been another fantastic live stream in terms of the numbers and in terms of the engagement. These are the things that make the live stream what it is. You guys getting involved and asking questions, helping one another out. So hopefully we are building a community here which is going to help you guys out throughout the course of the season. Again, if you're a new face around here and you enjoyed what you saw, make sure you do hit the subscribe button. We're dropping daily videos, and again, I'm no one being biased, but I do believe we are offering good content for you guys and hopefully informative content to help you come to your own conclusions, as well as some advice from us. Again, thank you so much for being on the journey with us, guys. Again, if you can drop a like on the way out. We're on 48 likes. What are 2 more likes? It's all free. Just drop a little like. It is much benefited. Guys, we're going to be back with another video on Monday, looking at the top transfers going into the final game week before the World Cup. So make sure you are following. And of course, we're going to be back for the final live stream before the World Cup on Friday. Make sure you are tuning in for that one. Cannot wait to discuss our teams and go back and forth. We'll make sure that's a longer live stream. We'll make sure that's an hour and a half, 2-hour booster live stream. So we'll look forward to that, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great game week. I want to see you guys soon. Take care and have a great weekend. Cheers.